The first snarl rips through the Texas night like thunder, not the casual bark of a farmyard dog, but the bone-chilling warning of a Caucasian Ovcharka. By the time the Sinaloa Nueva Frontera realizes what they've encountered, three massive shadows are already moving through the darkness with military precision. Marcus Cole stands at his barn door, weathered hands steady on his rifle as he watches 20 years of combat training unfold before him. The cartel came to intimidate an old rancher, to threaten his prized bulls and claim his land for their smuggling routes. Instead, they've stumbled into the killing ground of the Marine Corps' legendary Phantom Rancher and his three canine weapons, trained to hunt, corner, and neutralize with devastating efficiency. What unfolds over the next 72 hours becomes whispered legend among border criminals. How a retired Force Recon Marine and 3 mountain dogs systematically dismantled a cartel operation that had terrorized the region for years. No backup, no SWAT teams, just a man who spent 2 decades perfecting the art of asymmetric warfare, and his loyal partners executing skills that made them feared by insurgents and traffickers alike. Dawn breaks over Broken Spoke Ranch, painting the Texas sky in streaks of crimson and gold. Marcus Cole moves with deliberate steps across his property, checking fence lines and water troughs. At 52, his body carries the weight of multiple combat tours, but his movements remain purposeful, efficient. The titanium rod in his right leg, a souvenir from Fallujah, barely slows him down anymore. 3 massive Caucasian Ovcharka dogs fan out ahead of him, Timber, Granite, and Avalanche. Their powerful bodies alert to every sound, every scent carried on the morning breeze. Each dog weighs over 150 pounds of muscle and protective instinct, with thick white coats that seem to glow in the early light. Marcus clicks his tongue softly, a command barely audible. The dogs instantly stop, heads turning in perfect synchronization toward their master. 20 years in Marine Special Operations with the K9 Combat Tracker program has forged a connection between man and animal that transcends ordinary training. These aren't pets, they're battle-tested partners. Clear the yard, Marcus commands quietly. The dogs disperse, each taking a different section of the fence line, moving with disciplined precision that had once made them the elite of military. Working dogs across 3 continents, Marcus's satellite phone vibrates in his pocket. Only a handful of people have this number, most of them former operators who now work security along the border regions. Cole, he answers, voice still carrying the authoritative clip of a master sergeant. Morning, Phantom. Only a handful of people still use his old call sign. Jackson here. Got a situation you should know about. Ryan Jackson, former Delta, now running security for ranches along the border corridor. His voice carries the tense edge Marcus recognizes from missions. Gone sideways. Little early for a social call, Jackson. Wish it was social. Hernandez Place got hit last night. 40 head of cattle gone. 3rd ranch this month. Marcus's jaw tightens as he watches Timber inspect the western fence line, the dog's massive frame moving with surprising grace for his size. Sinaloa Nueva Frontera, getting bolder, moving further north. Word is they're establishing new routes through Terrell County. Any ranch that doesn't cooperate gets a visit. They haven't been out this far before. They are now. Thought you should know. Your ranch sits on a prime corridor between their staging areas. Marcus ends the call, tucking the phone back into his pocket. The cartel's expansion isn't surprising. What's surprising is how openly they're operating. Taking livestock isn't just theft, it's a message. Cooperate or lose more than just cattle. Nearly hip-high to the 6-foot Marine, the dog's behavior signals completion of his task, but also offers reassurance. These animals know his moods, read his tension before he even acknowledges it. Himself. Good boy, Marcus murmurs, running calloused fingers through the dog's dense fur. Granite, Avalanche, home. The other two Ovcharkas appear from different directions, converging on their handler with military precision. To an observer, it might seem like simple obedience. To Marcus, it's confirmation that his perimeter is secure. For now, the ranch house sits nestled against the foothills, a modest single-story building that Marcus has fortified over the years without making it obvious. Reinforced doors, impact-resistant windows, sight lines calculated for maximum visibility. Old habits from a life where vigilance meant survival. Inside, Marcus checks his security feeds, cameras strategically placed throughout the property, their presence disguised as ordinary fixtures. Technology has advanced since his Force Recon days, but the principles remain the same. Awareness, preparation, response. A truck approaches on the dusty access road, familiar enough that the dogs merely perk their ears rather than move to alert positions. Luis Garza, neighbor from the adjacent ranch, pulls up in a cloud of dust, his face etched with the weathered lines of generations of Texas ranchers, skin tanned dark from decades under the southwestern sun. Marcus, he nods, climbing down from his truck. Luis. Marcus returns the simple greeting, watching as the man approaches, noting how his neighbor's eyes nervously track the massive dogs lounging on the porch. Heard about Hernandez, Luis says, removing his hat and wiping sweat from his brow. Word travels fast. Small community, Marcus acknowledges. Smaller when trouble comes. Sheriff's useless. Says it's federal jurisdiction. Feds say they need more evidence. Luis spits in the dust. Meanwhile, we're sitting ducks. Marcus studies his neighbor. Luis represents most of the ranchers in Terrell County. Hard-working, honest, but unprepared for the calculated violence of cartel business. Have you been approached yet? Marcus asks. Luis looks away, his discomfort obvious. Last week, 2 men in a black Escalade, very polite, suggested I might want to rent part of my south pasture, said they'd pay cash. I'd never see what comes. Through. He pauses, twisting his hat in his hands. When I refused, they mentioned how unfortunate ranch accidents can be. Marcus nods, processing this information with the methodical analysis that once made him exceptional at battlefield intelligence. The others. Most are scared. Williams already agreed. Peterson's considering it. They threatened his daughter. Granite moves to Marcus's side, sensing the tension. The massive dog's presence seems to unnerve Luis, who takes a step back despite having known the animals for years. Still can't get used to how they watch everything, Luis mutters. Like they understand. Every word, they do, Marcus says simply. Luis shifts uncomfortably. They say you train dogs like these for the military, that they can track a man for 30 miles, take him down without making a sound. Marcus doesn't confirm or deny. His reputation in the valley exists in whispers and speculation. Most know he served with distinction. Few understand exactly what his role entailed. Listen, Marcus, these cartel people, they're not like the smugglers we dealt with in the past. They're organized, well-funded, the sheriff's out of his depth. Luis hesitates. I'm just saying, maybe we should consider their offer. Live to fight another day, Marcus's expression remains impassive. That's not how it works, Luis. You give them access, they own you. Today it's a pasture. Tomorrow it's your house, your family. Luis looks down. I've got grandchildren to think about. So do I, Marcus replies. That's why I don't intend to let them get a foothold here. After Luis leaves, Marcus returns to his daily routine, but his mind is calculating, assessing. The dogs sense the shift, staying closer than usual, responding to his energy. Mid-afternoon brings the veterinarian's truck winding up the driveway. Dr. Sarah Collins, Sarah to most people, has been caring for Marcus's dogs since he moved to the valley after retirement. One of the few people who understands what these animals are capable of. Brought those joint supplements you ordered, she calls, stepping down from her truck. At 43, Sarah carries herself with the confidence of someone comfortable in. The isolated ranching community heard about Hernandez. You think it'll escalate? Marcus helps her unload supplies. It already has. They're making their move on the county. Sarah glances toward the dogs, who maintain a respectful distance but watch her with unwavering attention. They have no idea what they'd be walking into here. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Marcus's voice carries a weight that suggests he's already preparing for exactly that scenario. Inside the barn, Sarah examines Avalanche, checking the dog's recent shoulder injury. Healing nicely. These animals are remarkable specimens, Marcus. I've never seen Ovcharkas with this level of training maintained outside active service. They're not retired, Marcus says simply. Neither am I. Sarah's expression grows serious. The sheriff came by my office yesterday. Asked questions about you, about your dogs. Someone's been telling stories in town. What kind of stories? The kind that might make cartel scouts think twice about approaching Broken Spoke Ranch. Or the kind that might make you a priority target. Marcus absorbs this information without visible reaction. What did you tell him? That you're a private man who trains good dogs. Sarah finishes her examination. But Sheriff Dawson isn't stupid. He's ex-army himself. He recognizes specialized training when he sees it. As Sarah prepares to leave, a dust cloud appears on the horizon. 3 vehicles moving fast along the main road that passes the ranch, not local traffic. The pattern of movement, the tactical spacing between vehicles triggers old instincts in Marcus. Get inside, he tells Sarah, his tone leaving no room for argument. The dogs are already moving, positioning themselves strategically around the property without any audible command from Marcus. Their transformation is immediate and striking, from attentive animals to coordinated tactical units. This is what they can really do, isn't it? Sarah asks quietly, watching the dogs deploy. Part of it, Marcus acknowledges. Let's hope they don't need to demonstrate the rest. The vehicles slow as they pass the ranch entrance. 2 black Escalades flanking a silver Lincoln Navigator with tinted windows. They don't stop, but their message is clear. We're here, we're watching, we know where you are. Timber returns to Marcus's side, a low growl rumbling in his chest. The sound vibrates through the air, more felt than heard. I know, Marcus murmurs to the dog. They'll be back. That evening, Marcus sits on his porch cleaning his M1911, a habit maintained through decades of service. The pistol has seen him through 3 combat tours, its weight familiar and reassuring in his hands. The radio beside him crackles with chatter between neighboring ranches, a community-wide alert system established years ago. Movement at the Peterson place, a voice reports. Black SUVs again, another voice cuts in. William says they're demanding more access, taking over his equipment barn. Marcus listens, his hands never pausing in their methodical work. The pattern is textbook cartel expansion. Establish presence, intimidate locals, escalate demands, punish resistance. He's seen it play out across villages in Afghanistan and Iraq for years. His phone buzzes with a text from Jackson. They're asking questions about you. Be careful. The dogs lie at attention around the porch, their posture relaxed, but vigilant. To most, they would appear to be simply pets enjoying the evening with their owner. Marcus knows better. They're processing every sound, every scent, cataloging changes in the environment that human senses would never detect. A distant engine sound causes all three dogs to turn their heads simultaneously toward the access road. Headlights appear, moving slowly, too slowly for normal traffic. Reconnaissance. Marcus doesn't reach for his weapon, doesn't call the dogs to alert. Instead, he continues cleaning his pistol, presenting the picture of an old rancher enjoying the evening, unaware and unprepared. The vehicle, a black Escalade with Mexican plates, passes by slowly, the windows lowered just enough for the occupants to observe the ranch house. They see exactly what Marcus wants them to see. An isolated property, an aging rancher, three dogs that appear to be nothing more than pets. What they don't see is Timber's almost imperceptible shift in position, placing himself between Marcus and the vehicle. They don't recognize Granite's controlled breathing, ready to launch forward at a single command. They don't notice Avalanche's eyes tracking their movement with the calculated precision of a predator. The Escalade continues down the road, apparently satisfied with their initial assessment. Marcus resumes his evening routine, but his mind is already preparing. They've started their surveillance. The next step will be contact, then pressure, then threats. The cartel follows predictable patterns because those patterns usually work. But Broken Spoke Ranch isn't a usual target, and Marcus Cole isn't a usual rancher. After a lifetime protecting American interests abroad, he's about to demonstrate why the cartels should fear the Phantom Rancher and his dogs. The night deepens around Broken Spoke Ranch, and Marcus makes his preparations. The cartel has made its first move. Tomorrow they'll make theirs. Morning arrives with the harsh clarity unique to the Texas desert. Marcus completes his pre-dawn security check, a habit ingrained through decades of military service. The dogs move alongside him, their training evident in how they systematically sweep each sector of the property. Marcus pauses at the eastern fence line, crouching to examine fresh tire tracks cutting across his access road. Someone had parked here during the night watching the ranch house. The dogs confirm his suspicion, timber indicating the lingering scent of cigarette smoke and cologne, distinctly non-local signatures. They're moving faster than I expected. Marcus mutters to the dogs, who watch him with unwavering attention. He rises, brushing dust from his jeans as the sun crests the distant mountains. His radio crackles. "Marcus, you copy?" Luisha's voice strained with urgency. "Go ahead. They're on their way to you. 3 vehicles just left my place, heading north. On the service road. They ask specific questions about you and your dogs." Marcus checks his watch. Not even 7 a.m. The cartel representatives are making a statement with this early visit, demonstrating control of the situation, catching targets. Unprepared. "Thanks for the warning," Marcus responds, already moving toward the ranch house. "Stay clear, Luis." Marcus secures the barn where his prized bulls are housed. Not a large herd, but carefully bred Angus stock worth considerable money. his livelihood, and more importantly, his reason for maintaining the ranch that serves as his sanctuary. He positions the dogs strategically. Granite inside the house with clear view of the front approach. Avalanche in the blind spot near the barn. Timber at his side. Then he settles. On the porch, pouring a cup of coffee from his thermos, presenting the image of a rancher starting his day. The vehicles appear exactly as Luis described. 2 black Escalades flanking a silver Navigator. They drive directly to the house, no pretense of hesitation or uncertainty. They know what property they're targeting. 5 men emerge. Marcus catalogues them with practiced efficiency. 3 obvious security, former military from their bearing. Weapons poorly concealed beneath tailored jackets. The 4th, the driver, stays with the vehicles, hand resting casually near his waistband. The 5th man emerges from the Navigator. Expensive suit, polished appearance, the confidence of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "Good morning," the suited man calls out in accented English, approaching the porch with a practiced smile. "Mr. Cole, I presume. My name is Alejandro Vega. I was hoping we might have a conversation about business opportunities." Marcus sips his coffee, making no move to stand. "Pretty early for business calls, Mr. Vega." "Ambitious men start their days early," Vega replies smoothly, reaching the bottom of the porch steps. He gestures toward the property. "Beautiful ranch you have here, prime location. It serves its purpose." Vega maintains his smile, but his eyes continuously scan the property, noting sightlines, access points, defensive positions. His security. Personnel have spread out slightly, maintaining professional distance while establishing tactical positioning. "May I?" Vega gestures to the porch steps. Marcus nods once. Timber remains motionless beside his chair, eyes fixed on the visitors. "I represent investment interests looking to establish transportation corridors through this region." Vega begins, remaining on the lower steps rather than fully ascending to the porch. "Your property occupies a strategic position that would be valuable to our operation." "Not interested in selling," Marcus responds flatly. "Oh, we don't wish to purchase your land, Mr. Cole, merely secure limited access rights. A mutual arrangement that would prove quite profitable for you. We're prepared to offer $75,000 for monthly use of your southern access route, cash of course." Marcus studies Vega carefully. "The offer is substantially higher than what they've likely proposed to other ranchers, an indication they recognize something different about Broken Spoke Ranch. That's generous. Why my property specifically?" Vega gestures expansively. "Location. Primarily, your ranch connects several key transit points. Additionally, you operate independently. No family living on site, minimal staff. Discretion is important in business. The subtext is clear. You're isolated, vulnerable, with no one to protect." "I value my privacy," Marcus says. "Not interested in the complications your business would bring." Vega's smile tightens fractionally. "I'm afraid you misunderstand, Mr. Cole. The situation in Terrell County is changing. Progress, you might say. You can benefit from these changes, or..." He allows the implication to hang in the air. As if on cue, one of the security men moves closer to the barn, ostensibly examining the structure, but clearly assessing its security. Timber's ears flatten. Slightly, the only visible reaction to the territorial encroachment. "That's far enough," Marcus calls out, his voice carrying unexpected authority. The man pauses, looking to Vega for direction. "My colleague is merely admiring your operation," Vega says smoothly. "I understand you maintain prize breeding stock. It would be unfortunate if anything happened to them." The threat lands exactly as intended. Marcus sets down his coffee cup, the casual atmosphere evaporating. "Mr. Vega, I spent 20 years with Marine Special Operations. I recognize Sinaloa Nueva Frontera tactics when I see them. Your organization has threatened my neighbors, stolen livestock, and now you're threatening my property. I'm not interested in your offer. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever." Vega's expression hardens, the veneer of business professionalism cracking. "You seem well-informed, Mr. Cole, but perhaps not well-informed enough. Do you know what happens to those who refuse our generous offers? Do you know what happens to those who threaten me on my property?" The tension hangs in the air between them. One of the security men reaches beneath his jacket, a motion so subtle most would miss it. Marcus doesn't move, doesn't react, but Timber does. The transformation is immediate and shocking. The seemingly calm dog beside Marcus's chair erupts into controlled aggression, teeth bared, muscles coiled, a deep growl that seems to vibrate through the very boards of the porch. The security man freezes, hand still beneath his jacket. "I wouldn't," Marcus advises quietly. He's trained to go for the limb, reaching for a weapon first, then the throat. As if understanding the conversation, Timber's growl intensifies. More alarmingly for the visitors, a second growl emerges from an entirely different direction. Avalanche, previously unnoticed, now visible near the barn, body lowered in stalking position, focused entirely on the man who had moved toward the cattle barn. "Caucasian Ovcharkas," Vega observes, genuine unease crossing his features. "Military trained." "Something like that," Marcus replies. "Mr. Vega, I'll say this once, take your business elsewhere. My property is not available. Not for $75,000, not for $750,000. Vega studies Marcus, reassessing the situation. "Your neighbors mentioned you were different, that you had special training, special dogs. Perhaps we should have approached differently." "Perhaps you shouldn't have approached at all." The security personnel look increasingly uncomfortable, eyes tracking between the visible dogs, while hands hover near concealed weapons. The standoff stretches until Vega finally nods, stepping back. "We'll be in touch, Mr. Cole. The offer remains open. Consider carefully. You're one man with a few dogs. We are many, with resources you can't imagine." Marcus's radio crackles again. "They gone?" Luis asks. "For now." "What did you tell them?" Marcus considers his response carefully. "That I'm not interested in their business." Luis's bitter laugh comes through the speaker. "They don't take rejection." "Well, Marcus, you know that. Williams tried to back out of his arrangement after they started moving drugs through his property. Next morning found his prize bull butchered in the field." "I'm not Williams," Marcus responds simply, ending the conversation. Mid-morning brings another visitor, a county sheriff's department SUV rolling up the drive without the aggressive purpose of the cartel vehicles. Sheriff Dawson steps out, his uniform crisp despite the gathering heat, his movements carrying the disciplined precision of military training. "Mr. Cole," he calls, approaching cautiously, eyes tracking the dogs who have taken up positions around Marcus. "Got a minute to talk?" Marcus gestures to the porch. "Coffee's still hot, Sheriff." Dawson accepts the offered cup, settling into the chair beside Marcus. "Heard you had visitors this morning. Black SUVs, fancy navigator. Word travels fast. Small community, nervous community." Dawson sips his coffee. Same group's been making rounds through the county. Some people call them investors. Some call them cartel. What would you call them, Mr. Cole? Predictable, Marcus answers. This draws a small smile from the sheriff. You were Force Recon, right? That's what your file says anyway. 20 years of service before retiring to raise cattle. That's what the file says. Dawson studies him over the rim of his cup. File doesn't mention you were K9 Tactical. Doesn't mention your call sign was Phantom. Doesn't mention your unit had the highest interdiction rate along the Afghanistan corridor for 5 straight years. Marcus meets his gaze evenly. You've been doing homework, Sheriff. When Cartel representatives start making moves in my jurisdiction, I like to know what resources are available. He gestures toward Timber, who watches him with unblinking attention. These dogs, they're not just ranch dogs, are they? They serve multiple purposes. Dawson nods slowly. The cartel's establishing smuggling corridors through Terrell County. They've got half the ranchers terrified and the other half on their payroll. Federal response is delayed. I'm understaffed and outgunned. She sets down her cup. I need to know if you're going to be a problem or a solution, Mr. Cole. I just want to be left alone, Sheriff. Run my ranch, tend my cattle. Somehow I don't. Think our visitors are going to accommodate that wish. Dawson stands, returning his cup. When they come back, and they will come back, try to leave something for me to arrest. And if you need backup, my office is 30 minutes away. As Dawson drives away, Marcus returns to the barn to check on his bulls. The morning's confrontation has left him uneasy. The cartel's interest in his specific property suggests more than routine expansion. Someone has been providing them with information. Marcus's cell phone buzzes. His daughter Elena checking in from San Antonio, where she works as a trauma nurse. Everything okay, Dad? You usually call on Sundays. Marcus measures his response, unwilling to worry her unnecessarily. Everything's fine. Just checking in. How's work? Busy. Thinking about driving out this weekend. Could use some desert air. Marcus tenses. Maybe give it a couple weeks. I'm having some fence work done. Place is a mess. The lie comes smoothly, justified by the need to keep her away from potential danger. Elena hesitates on the line, clearly sensing something in his tone. Dad, what's going on? Is this about those cartel stories on the news? Nothing I can't handle, Marcus assures her. Just normal border issues. You focus on your work. After ending the call, Marcus begins implementing security protocols he'd established years ago, but hoped never to use. Additional motion sensors along the perimeter, cameras activated in blind spots, early warning systems that would give him precious minutes of advance notice for any approach. By late afternoon, Jackson's truck appears on the access road. Recognizable enough that Marcus doesn't reach for the rifle he's been keeping closer than usual. Heard about your visitors, Jackson says without preamble, stepping down from his truck. At 49, Jackson carries the weathered look of someone who has spent a lifetime in harsh environments. His eyes constantly scan the surroundings, a habit formed through years of Delta operations. Vega made his pitch. I declined. Jackson's expression darkens. Alejandro Vega himself came. That's not good, Marcus. He's Emilio Sanchez's right hand. They don't send him for routine negotiations. Marcus processes this information. They offered more than they've offered others. Specifically mentioned my bulls. It's not just about smuggling routes, Jackson confirms, lowering his voice despite the isolation of the ranch. Word is they're establishing distribution points. Moving product across the border is just phase 1. They need staging areas, processing locations. Your ranch is perfect, remote, defensible, with buildings that could be converted. Marcus's mind works through the implications. The breeding stock is just leverage then? Exactly. They'll threaten what you value most to get compliance. Jackson glances toward the dogs, who maintain watchful positions around the property. They'll be back. Tonight, probably. First warning to show they're serious. I'll be ready. Jackson studies his friend carefully. These aren't ordinary smugglers. They're militarized, organized. Former Mexican special forces among their security details. They'll come prepared. So am I, Marcus responds quietly. As dusk approaches, Marcus makes final security preparations. The dogs sense his tension, staying close, responding to subtle commands with immediate precision. He secures the bulls in the reinforced barn, activates perimeter alerts, and positions equipment where he can access it quickly. The radio network between ranches has gone quiet, an ominous sign. Either the neighbors are frightened into silence, or the cartel has begun restricting communications. Marcus settles on the porch as darkness envelops the ranch, the dogs positioned strategically around him. To casual observation, it might appear he's simply enjoying the evening. In reality, every sense is attuned to the environment, every muscle ready to respond. The first indication comes just after midnight, a perimeter sensor triggered on the southern boundary, the silent alert flashing on Marcus's phone. Motion, approximately, half a mile out, approaching with caution. Time to work, Marcus murmurs to the dogs, who respond with focused attention. Granite, Avalanche, secure the barn. Timber, with me. The Ovcharkas move like ghosts through the darkness. They're specialized, training evident in how they navigate without sound, without hesitation. Marcus positions himself with clear sight lines to the southern approach, watching through night vision equipment as three figures make their way toward the cattle barn. The cartel has made its first move against his livestock. Tonight, they'll learn why the Phantom Rancher earned his reputation and why his dogs were feared by every insurgent in Helmand Province. The three figures move with practiced stealth toward Marcus's barn, their approach careful but confident. Night vision goggles give them a technical advantage they believe will ensure success in their mission. They carry specialized equipment, injectable chemicals for the bulls, not guns. Their objective isn't to steal, but to destroy, to poison. Marcus's prized breeding stock as the first punitive message. Marcus watches through his own tactical gear, noting their formation and equipment. These aren't common thugs. They move with military discipline, maintaining proper spacing, checking sight lines. Bulls are the target, Marcus whispers to Timber, who remains motionless beside him, eyes fixed on the intruders. Avalanche, position 1. No audible response comes from the darkness, but Marcus knows the command has been received. Years of operating with these dogs under combat conditions has forged a communication system that transcends normal training. The intruders reach the barn door, working methodically to defeat the lock. They don't realize the barn is under surveillance from multiple angles, or that the ordinary-looking structure has been reinforced to Marcus's exacting specifications. As they slip inside, Marcus gives a silent hand signal. Timber disappears into the darkness, moving on a wide flanking route. Marcus advances toward the barn, passing a position where Granite lies completely concealed in the shadow of a water trough. Inside the barn, the intruders move directly toward the bullpens, retrieving syringes from specialized cases. Their night vision equipment reveals the prize breeding stock, animals worth thousands each. One man begins preparing the first injection. Now, Marcus whispers into his communication device. The barn's secondary lighting system activates, not the main overheads that would immediately alert the intruders, but specialized red lighting that preserves human night vision while rendering night vision goggles temporarily useless. Disoriented, the intruders rip off their suddenly blinding goggles. Before they can adjust to the changed conditions, the attack begins. Avalanche emerges from a concealed position inside the barn itself, launching at the man with the syringe. The dog moves with stunning precision, targeting the arm holding the injection, clamping down with carefully calibrated pressure, enough to immobilize but not maim. The second intruder reaches for his weapon, only to find timber materializing from the darkness behind him, striking at his weapon hand before he can complete the draw. The impact sends the gun clattering across the barn floor. The third man manages to retrieve his sidearm, swinging wildly toward the sound of his companion's shout. Before he can fire, Marcus emerges from the shadows, disarming him with a swift strike that speaks of decades of close-quarters combat training. The entire encounter lasts less than 30 seconds. Two intruders lie pinned by dogs trained in tactical holds, pressure applied to specific points that render resistance both painful and futile. The third faces Marcus, who now holds the man's own weapon. "You really should have researched me better," Marcus says calmly, securing the man's hands with zip ties. "We were just supposed to hit the bulls," the man gasps, eyes darting between Marcus and the dogs. "Just a warning." "I know exactly what you were supposed to do," Marcus secures the second man. "The question is whether Vega knew who he was sending his men against. The controlled aggression of the dogs unsettles the captives more than Marcus's weapon. These aren't animals acting on instinct or simple attack training. They execute complex restraint techniques with disturbing intelligence, maintaining precisely the right pressure to control without permanently damaging. "What the hell kind of dogs are these?" one captive demands, grimacing as Timber adjusts grip slightly in response to his struggling. "The kind that spent years hunting people far more dangerous than you," Marcus answers, securing the third man. "Granite, watch." The third Ovcharka materializes from outside, taking up guard position at the barn door. Marcus systematically collects weapons and equipment, examining the syringes with grim understanding. "Potassium chloride," he notes, recognizing the preparation. "Would have killed every animal in here. Painful death, too." "Just following orders," the lead intruder mutters. Mexican accent but educated, with the bearing of former military. "I'm sure you were," Marcus replies evenly. "Problem is, you followed them onto my property." He examines their tactical gear, noting quality that exceeds standard cartel operations. "Who exactly are you working for? Vega directly, or someone higher?" The man's silence is answer enough. Marcus continues his methodical questioning, extracting small details through careful interrogation techniques learned through decades of special operations work. By dawn, Sheriff Dawson's vehicle approaches the ranch, responding to Marcus's call. He surveys the three restrained men with professional detachment, noting the quality of their equipment and the precision of their bindings. "Found these men in my barn at approximately 0100 hours, Marcus reports formally. They were attempting to poison my breeding stock with lethal injections. I detained them pending your arrival." Dawson raises an eyebrow at the clinical description of what must have been a violent encounter. The captives bear no serious injuries, but their expressions reflect men who have experienced something profoundly unsettling. "Special operations team based on their equipment," Dawson confirms, examining their identification. "Not the usual." "Border trash," one of the captives glares at him. "You have no jurisdiction. Our consul will have us released within hours." Dawson smiles thinly. "Attempted agricultural terrorism falls under federal statutes. You'll be talking to people way above my pay grade." She turns to Marcus as her deputies secure the prisoners. "You want to tell me how one rancher managed to detain 3 cartel operatives without firing a shot?" Marcus glances toward the dogs, who maintain disciplined positions around the property. "Had some help." "Those aren't just protection dogs, are they?" Dawson presses. "They're whatever they need to be," Marcus answers simply. Once the sheriff's vehicles depart with the prisoners, Marcus conducts a thorough security sweep of his property. The night's events have confirmed his suspicions. The cartel's interest in his ranch goes beyond routine smuggling operations. Jackson arrives mid-morning, his expression grim. "Heard about last night. You okay?" "Fine. Bulls are safe." Jackson follows Marcus to the security room, concealed within the ranch house, a space that would surprise anyone who saw only the rustic exterior of the building. Multiple monitors display camera feeds from across the property, communications equipment more sophisticated than most police departments occupies one wall. "They hit Williams and Peterson too," Jackson reports. "Williams lost 20 head of cattle. Peterson's barn burned down. Coordinated strikes." "Testing defenses," Marcus notes, "establishing dominance. You're the only one who came out ahead." Jackson studies the security footage from the previous night. "They won't take that well." "I'm counting on it." Jackson gives Marcus a sharp look. "You want them to escalate? That's a dangerous game with these people." "No game." Marcus brings up satellite imagery of the region on one of his monitors. "The cartel's moving into Terrell County with purpose. This isn't just about smuggling routes. They're establishing infrastructure, processing facilities, distribution hubs, command centers. My ranch sits at a key junction with natural defensive positions and clear sight lines. Perfect for their purposes. You think they selected your property specifically?" Marcus nods. "The intelligence they had was too precise. Someone gave them detailed information about the ranch, the cattle operation. But not about you," Jackson observes. "That's what I need to find out." Marcus brings up personnel files on several cartel members. "I need everything you can get me on Vega and his operation. Command structure, tactical resources, known associates." Jackson studies his old friend carefully. "You're preparing for more than just defense, aren't you?" "I'm preparing to end this," Marcus confirms, "before anyone else in the county gets hurt." The conversation is interrupted by an alert from the perimeter system, vehicles approaching from the main road. Marcus switches to the appropriate camera feed, revealing a pickup truck he recognizes as belonging to Luis Garza. Luis isn't alone. 3 other local ranchers accompany him, their expressions revealing a mixture of fear and determination. As they approach the house, they're mobilizing the community, Marcus observes. Marcus meets them on the porch, the dogs positioned strategically around the property, visible but not threatening. "Heard what happened last night," Luis begins without preamble. "Word is you captured some of Sanchez's men." Marcus simply nods, assessing the group. Besides Luis, he recognizes James Peterson, whose barn was burned, Ronald Taylor from the Western County, and Michael Foster, one of the few ranchers who had openly resisted cartel pressures. "We need help, Marcus," Peterson says. The burns on his hands testament to his efforts to save his livestock. Sheriff's overwhelmed, feds are nowhere. Meanwhile, the cartel's picking us off one by one. "What exactly are you asking for?" Marcus inquires, though he already suspects the answer. Foster steps forward. "Train us. Show us how to protect our properties like you protected yours." Marcus considers the request carefully. These men aren't soldiers. They're ranchers, farmers, civilians who've been thrust into a conflict they never sought. "It's not just about training," he explains. "It's about coordination, intelligence, preparation." "Then teach us that too," Luis insists. "We've worked this land for generations. We're not giving it up without a fight." Before Marcus can respond, Jackson emerges from the house, his expression urgent. "Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this." Inside the security room, Jackson brings up intercepted communications, another advantage of Marcus's sophisticated setup. The messages are encoded, but the pattern is unmistakable to those with special operations experience. "They're bringing in heavy assets," Jackson translates grimly. "Specialist teams from Culiacan. These aren't just enforcers, they're their elite squads." Marcus studies the communication patterns. Timeline? 24 hours, maybe less. The ranchers exchange worried glances, the reality of what they're facing becoming clearer. "This is because of what happened last night," Luis realizes. "They're escalating because you fought back." "They're escalating because that was always the plan," Marcus corrects him. "Last night just accelerated their timeline." Marcus makes a decision, one that goes against his natural inclination towards self-reliance. These men need help, and he has the knowledge to provide it. Moreover, a coordinated community response would be more effective than isolated resistance. "I'll help you," he tells the ranchers, "but understand, this isn't about fighting the cartel directly. It's about making your properties secure enough that they look elsewhere." The relief on their faces is palpable. Marcus begins outlining basic security measures, strategic lighting, communication protocols, coordinated response plans. It's a crash course in techniques he spent decades perfecting, simplified for civilian application. As the ranchers depart with new purpose, Jackson pulls Marcus aside. "You know this makes you an even bigger target, right? Organizing resistance against the cartel?" "I became the primary target the moment I captured their men," Marcus responds. "At least now the community has a chance." While Marcus works with the local ranchers, the cartel regroups in a luxury hacienda 30 miles south of the border. Alejandro Vega faces Emilio Sanchez, the regional commander of Sinaloa Nueva Frontera operations. "Explain to me," Sanchez says with dangerous calm, "how 3 of our best operatives were captured by one old rancher and his dogs." Vega chooses his words carefully, aware that failures in the organization are often addressed permanently. Cole is not what he appears. He's former Marine Special Operations, specialized in K-9 tactical operations. His reputation, "I don't care about his reputation," Sanchez interrupts. "I care about results. Terrell County is critical to our northern distribution network. We've invested millions in this expansion. We've secured most of the territory," Vega reminds him. "Cole is an isolated problem. A problem that is now organizing the other ranchers," Sanchez counters. tossing surveillance photos across the desk. The images show Marcus meeting with neighboring ranchers. He's becoming a symbol of resistance, unacceptable. Vega nods in agreement. I've already called in Los Cazadores. This gives Sanchez pause. Los Cazadores? The hunters. Their specialized strike team. Former Mexican Special Forces soldiers who have brought military precision to cartel operations. The full team, 4 operators plus tactical support, Vega confirms. They're preparing now. Sanchez considers this. Cole seems to have military-grade security. How confident are you in the intelligence? We've had his property under satellite surveillance for a week. We've mapped every approach, identified blind spots in his security. Los Cazadores will have everything they need. And the dogs? The team is bringing appropriate countermeasures. Back at Broken Spoke Ranch, Marcus continues preparations, aware that the cartel's response is imminent. He works methodically, checking systems, reinforcing vulnerable points, establishing fallback positions. The dogs sense the heightened alert, staying close, responding instantly to commands. Their behavior shifts subtly, less like companion animals and more like the tactical operators they were trained to be. Marcus's phone rings, an encrypted line used only by his closest former colleagues. Cole, he answers. It's Matthews at Epic. The El Paso Intelligence Center serves as a clearinghouse for border security information. Got movement you should know about. 4 individuals crossed at Ojinaga yesterday, known Cazadores. Marcus's expression hardens. The Cazadores represent a significant escalation, specialists in high-value target elimination. Destination? Terrell County, according to our sources. Word is they're preparing for a major operation, 48-hour window. Targets you, primary, but they've also listed neighboring ranches as secondary objectives, making an example. Marcus absorbs this information, adjusting his mental timeline. Any word on their approach vector? Nothing confirmed, but they've requested specialized equipment for handling trained dogs. This final detail concerns Marcus more than the rest. The cartel is learning, adapting to the specific challenges his dogs present. The next encounter won't be as one-sided as the first. Appreciate the heads up, Marcus says before ending the call. He moves to the barn, checking on his bulls, the initial target that had drawn first blood in this conflict. The animals remain calm, unaware of their role in the larger confrontation, brewing around them. Marcus runs his hand along the neck of his prize bull, the animal that represents years of careful breeding and represents both his livelihood and his cover for maintaining the ranch. They're coming back, he tells the animal softly, but this time they'll find more than they bargained for. As night falls over Broken Spoke Ranch, Marcus completes his preparations. The ranch appears quiet, peaceful, an illusion carefully crafted to conceal the sophisticated defense system now fully activated. The dogs take up their assigned positions, not just security positions, but strategic placements designed to maximize their specialized capabilities. These aren't mere guard dogs. They're tactical assets deployed by someone who spent decades perfecting their use in combat situations. Standing on his porch, watching the sunset paint the desert in deepening shadows, Marcus knows the next 24 hours will determine the future of not just his ranch, but the entire Terrell County. The cartel has brought its elite forces to bear against what they perceive as simple resistance. They're about to discover why Marcus Cole and his dogs were once the most feared special operations team in the Helmand province. 20 miles south of Broken Spoke Ranch in an abandoned gas station, 4 men review satellite imagery of Marcus's property. They work with methodical precision, marking approach routes, defensive positions, and potential blind spots. Their equipment is military. Grade, thermal imaging devices, encrypted communications, specialized weapons. These are Los Cazadores, the elite unit of Sinaloa Nueva Frontera, led by Commander Raul Ortiz. They've conducted operations against rival cartels, government officials, and military units. Their reputation for efficiency and brutality has made them Sanchez's most valuable asset. The primary target has extensive security measures, Ortiz explains, circling areas on the map. Surveillance indicates motion sensors covering the main approaches, cameras disguised as ordinary fixtures, and reinforced structures. His second-in-command, Torres, studies the images. The dogs are the main concern. 3 Caucasian Ovcharkas, military trained. They've already neutralized 1 attack team, which is why we have these. Ortiz indicates specialized equipment cases, ultrasonic disruptors, specialized scent masks, and if necessary, chemical deterrents. Lethal? Torres asks. If required. Ortiz's tone leaves no room for sentiment. The primary objective is securing the property. Eliminating resistance is authorized. Torres nods toward another section of their equipment. Shaped charges, breaching tools, specialized ammunition. Seems excessive for one old rancher and his dogs. Vega doesn't want another failure. This property completes our northern corridor. Ortiz traces the route on the larger map. Besides, Cole isn't just any rancher. 20 years Marine Special Forces, specialized K-9 tactical. He and his dogs operated all along the Helmand corridor. Recognition flashes across Torres's face. El Fantasma, the Phantom. I thought that was a myth. The man is real, Ortiz confirms. And now he's organizing resistance among the local ranchers. Timeline. We move tomorrow night. Coordinated. Strike. The neighboring properties get hit simultaneously, creates confusion, divides response resources. Los Cazadores return to their methodical planning, preparing for an operation they consider challenging but ultimately routine. They've dealt with military opposition before. One retired Marine, regardless of his reputation, seems a manageable obstacle. Back at Broken Spoke Ranch, Marcus conducts a final briefing with the neighboring ranchers. They've gathered in his barn, away from potential surveillance, to review defensive protocols. Communication is your strongest asset, Marcus explains, distributing specialized radio units. These operate on encrypted channels. If you spot suspicious activity, report it immediately using the codes we established. Luis examines his radio. What if they jam communications? Then you follow the backup protocol. Marcus activates lights, positioned to be visible from neighboring properties. 3 flashes means you need assistance. Peterson, still nursing, bandaged hands from his barn fire, looks skeptical. Lights and radios won't stop armed cartel members. They're not meant to stop them, Marcus clarifies. They're meant to warn them that attacking your property won't be the easy target they expect. Most criminals prefer soft targets. Show strength and coordination. Many will look elsewhere. And if they don't, Foster asks, then you fall back. To secure positions and wait for support. Marcus pulls up a map of the county on a tablet. I've marked rally points on each property, reinforced structures, defensive positions, evacuation routes. The ranchers study the tactical assessments of their own properties with growing appreciation of Marcus's expertise. This isn't amateur. Advice, it's professional security consultation, tailored to their specific situations. One thing to understand, Marcus adds, his expression serious. The cartel will test these defenses probably soon. When they do, your response must be coordinated but proportional. We're creating deterrence, not engaging in warfare. As the meeting concludes, Sheriff Dawson's vehicle approaches the ranch. The ranchers eye him warily. Local law enforcement has proven ineffective against cartel pressure thus far. Dawson senses their distrust as he enters. Gentlemen, planning the county's annual barbecue? Something like that, Luis replies coolly. Marcus intervenes. Sheriff Dawson has been helpful, Luis. He's working with limited resources against a well-funded adversary. Dawson nods in acknowledgement, which is why I'm here. He places a satellite phone on the table. Direct line to Joint Task Force headquarters in Houston. They can't deploy without federal authorization, but this bypasses local dispatch if you need urgent response. The gesture, providing equipment that skirts official channels, indicates Dawson's commitment beyond his official capacity. There's more, he continues. We've identified increased activity at the old mining complex south of the county. 4 individuals arrived yesterday. Based on equipment deliveries, they're preparing for a major operation. Los Cazadores, Marcus confirms. You know about them? I have sources too, Sheriff. Dawson looks around at the assembled ranchers. Whatever you people are planning, understand what you're facing. These aren't ordinary cartel thugs. They're trained military operators. So are some of us, Marcus replies quietly. After the others leave, Marcus conducts a final security sweep with the dogs. Timber, Granite, and Avalanche move with heightened awareness, sensing the approaching conflict through Marcus's own tension. The ranch appears peaceful in the afternoon light, but Marcus's trained eye catalogues a dozen subtle preparations. Invisible to casual observation, defensive positions established behind ordinary ranch fixtures, equipment positioned for quick access, escape routes cleared and verified. His satellite phone rings. Matthews from Epic again. Cole, satellite shows increased activity at your location. You expecting company? Just some neighbors, Marcus answers carefully, aware that even secure lines have limitations. Well, you've got more company coming. Thermal imaging shows 4 vehicles headed north from the mining complex. Heavy equipment signatures. Timeline. Based on current movement, they'll reach the county by nightfall. Multiple targets identified. Marcus absorbs this information calmly. Appreciated. Cole, Matthews adds, we've got a team on standby in Del Rio. 1 call. They can be there in 30 minutes. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Marcus ends the call, considering his options. The timeline has accelerated. Los Cazadores are moving tonight, not tomorrow, as intelligence had suggested. A tactical adjustment to catch the ranchers unprepared. He reaches for his radio to warn the others when headlights appear on the access road, not approaching with the caution of potential hostiles, but driving directly to the house with familiar confidence. Marcus recognizes the vehicle with a sinking feeling. His daughter Elena's sedan. Damn it, he mutters, immediately adjusting mental calculations. The presence of his daughter transforms the tactical situation entirely. Elena emerges from her car, her expression a mixture of concern and determination. At 28, she carries herself with the confidence of her profession, a trauma nurse accustomed to crisis situations. Before you start, she says, approaching the porch, Luis's wife called me, told me what's happening in the county. She sets down her medical bag. If you think I'm staying in San Antonio while cartel hitmen target my father, you raised the wrong daughter. Marcus struggles between pride and frustration. Elena, these people are dangerous. So are you, she interrupts, her eyes shifting to the dogs who have taken up protective positions around them. Dad, I'm a trauma nurse. If there's going to be trouble, you need someone with medical training. Before Marcus can formulate a response that balances tactical concerns with paternal protection, his security system triggers a silent alert. Motion detected on the eastern perimeter. Faint heat signatures moving with tactical spacing. Inside, Marcus orders, all debate forgotten. The shift in his tone registers immediately with Elena, who responds to the command without question. Years of growing up with a Marine for a father has taught her to recognize genuine danger signals. Inside the reinforced house, Marcus activates full security protocols, bringing surveillance feeds to the main monitors. The approaching figures are employing professional techniques, using terrain for cover, moving in coordinated patterns, carrying specialized equipment. Los Cazadores, Marcus explains tersely, directing Elena away from windows. Cartel Special Forces. You were expecting them? Marcus notes the calm efficiency with which his daughter operates, the sophisticated security system concealed within the rustic ranch house. Not this soon, and not with you here. Marcus checks the feeds from neighboring ranches. They've adjusted. The timeline. Multiple teams approaching across the county, designed to overwhelm the newly established defense network before it can properly activate. Marcus sends a rapid series of responses, coordinating the community's reactions. His voice carries the unmistakable authority of someone who has commanded in crisis situations. Stay in the secure room, he instructs Elena, revealing a reinforced chamber built into the central section of the house. Medical supplies are in the cabinet. There's a secure communication line if needed. What about you, Elena asks, professional training already kicking in as she inventories the medical equipment. I need to deploy the dogs. Outside, Marcus moves with practiced stealth through the gathering darkness, the dogs flanking him with perfect discipline. He communicates with hand signals and whispered commands, positioning them at strategic points around the property. Timber, eastern approach, Granite barn perimeter, Avalanche, with me. Each dog moves silently to its assigned position. These aren't simple guard dogs barking at intruders. They're tactical operators executing a defensive deployment with military precision. The first breach comes at the eastern fence line. Sophisticated cutters making quick work of the barrier. Two cazadores slip through, carrying specialized equipment, including what Marcus recognizes as ultrasonic disruption devices designed to disorient trained dogs. They've done their homework, Marcus acknowledges grimly, but so has he. Timber, positioned downwind from the intruders, remains undetected and unaffected by their countermeasures. Marcus watches through his tactical gear as the dog executes exactly the maneuver trained for this scenario. Not attacking, but tracking, gathering intelligence on the intruder's approach pattern. The second breach occurs simultaneously at the southern perimeter, more sophisticated than expected. Los Cazadores have thermal imaging equipment that identifies the regular patrol patterns of Marcus's security measures. Granite, responsible for the barn security, adjusts position based on Marcus's silent command through their communication system. The dog understands not just the command, but the tactical situation, the need to protect the livestock while gathering intelligence on the attacker's capabilities. As Los Cazadores converge on the main structures, Marcus completes his assessment. 4 primary operators plus support personnel. military-grade equipment, coordinated approach designed to neutralize both human and canine resistance. Time to demonstrate why the Phantom earned his reputation. Marcus triggers the first countermeasure, not an attack but a specialized defensive protocol. Areas of the property suddenly illuminate with carefully positioned lighting, destroying the attacker's night vision advantage while leaving specific zones in complete darkness. Through the confusion, the dogs move with incredible discipline. Timber targets the communications specialist, striking with precision that disables equipment without lethal force. Granite creates strategic disruption at key points, drawing attention and fire away from the house and barn, leading pursuers into prepared defensive positions. Los Cazadores adapt quickly, falling back to secondary positions, employing counter-tactics. One operator deploys the sonic disruption device, aiming it toward where Timber was last seen. Marcus counters by activating ranch equipment via remote control, water pumps, generators, machinery that creates overlapping sound patterns that neutralize. The sonic weapon's effectiveness. The tactical exchange escalates as both sides demonstrate professional expertise. Los Cazadores employ breaching charges against the barn, creating a diversion while two operators advance on the house. Marcus anticipated this approach. Avalanche, positioned inside the house itself, remains in reserve for precisely this scenario. As Los Cazadores breach the porch, the dog executes a perfect ambush, incapacitating one operator before melting back into darkness. The remaining Cazador, now isolated, finds himself confronting Marcus directly. The encounter is brief but revealing. Both men recognize the professional training in each other's movements. The Cazador employs specialized close-quarters techniques. Marcus counters with the practiced efficiency of someone who has trained for exactly these scenarios for decades. "You're making a mistake," Marcus tells the man calmly, securing him after a swift takedown. "Your team is already compromised." As if to confirm his assessment, Timber and Granite return from their assignments, each having successfully neutralized their targets through precision incapacitation rather than lethal force. Commander Ortiz, the last Cazador standing, finds himself in an untenable position, his team disabled, his communications disrupted, facing not just Marcus but three tactical K9s who move with coordinated precision that speaks of the highest level of specialized training. El Fantasma, Ortiz acknowledges, lowering his weapon in professional recognition of the tactical situation. The stories didn't exaggerate. They never do, Marcus replies, securing the commander with the same efficiency he's displayed throughout the encounter. As Sheriff Dawson's vehicles approach, responding to the coordinated alerts from multiple ranches, Marcus conducts a final assessment. Los Cazadores' attack has been neutralized with minimal damage to the property and no serious injuries to either side. The dogs maintain disciplined position, showing no unnecessary aggression, no loss of control despite the chaotic environment. Their performance has been flawless, exactly what would be expected from animals with their specialized training and experience. Elena emerges cautiously from the secure room, medical bag in hand, her professional demeanor taking over as she evaluates the restrained Cazadores for injuries requiring treatment. They came prepared to deal with the dogs, she observes, noting the specialized equipment. But not prepared enough, Marcus responds, checking Avalanche for any signs of injury or stress. The bond between handler and dog transcends normal animal-human relationships. These are partners who have faced combat situations together, who communicate on levels most would never understand. Sheriff Dawson surveys the aftermath with professional assessment. 4 cazadores captured intact. That's unprecedented. The others? Marcus asks, referring to the county-wide coordinated attack. Mixed results. Peterson's place took heavy damage. Foster managed to repel his attackers. Dawson hesitates. They took Luis's grandson, left a message saying they'll exchange him for you. The information lands like a physical blow. The cartel has escalated beyond property damage to targeted abduction, using an innocent as leverage. How long? Marcus asks, his mind already formulating response options. They've given 24 hours, Dawson confirms. After that, she leaves the implication hanging. Marcus studies the captured cazadores, particularly Ortiz, recognizing that this encounter has transformed from a territorial defense to something far more personal. The cartel has miscalculated severely, not understanding that targeting a child would cross a line that changes the entire dynamic of the conflict. Get these men secured, Marcus instructs Dawson. I need to make preparations. As law enforcement secures the scene, Marcus gathers his dogs, checking each for any sign of injury or stress. Their performance has proven everything he trained them for, but the next phase will test all of them beyond anything they've faced since leaving active. Zervis, the cartel believes they've found leverage by taking Luis's grandson. Instead, they've unleashed something they've only heard about in whispered legends, the full operational capability of the Marine Corps' most effective K-9 tactical unit and the handler who earned the name Phantom. Marcus watches the cazadores being loaded into sheriff's vehicles, his expression revealing nothing of the calculated response already forming in his mind. The cartel wanted his attention. Now they have it, completely and irrevocably. The county sheriff's office buzzes with unusual activity as Marcus studies satellite imagery spread across the conference table. The captured cazadores sit in separate interrogation rooms, their presence creating a mixture of tension and excitement among the deputies, unused to handling high-value cartel operatives. Sheriff Dawson enters, closing the door behind him. Feds are sending a transport team, ETA 4 hours. Marcus doesn't look up from the maps. That's 3 hours too late for what I need. I'm already bending every regulation letting you in here, Dawson reminds him. These men are in federal custody. Technically, you shouldn't be within a mile of them. Technically, Tommy Garza shouldn't be in cartel custody either. Marcus traces a route on the map, but he is, and the 24-hour deadline is ticking. Dawson studies him, recognizing the controlled intensity of someone operating on specialized training rather than emotion, despite the personal stakes. You have a plan, she observes, one that probably crosses several jurisdictional and legal boundaries. I have the beginning of a plan, Marcus corrects her, but I need information only Ortiz can provide. Dawson weighs her options. Professional. Duty battling against the reality of a child in mortal danger. 10 minutes, off the record, I was never in the room. Commander Raul Ortiz sits handcuffed to the interrogation table, his bearing still carrying military discipline despite his circumstances. He studies Marcus with professional assessment as he enters the room. El Fantasma, Ortiz acknowledges. Your reputation was not exaggerated. Where's the boy? Marcus asks without preamble. Ortiz's expression remains neutral. What boy? Tommy Garza, 13 years old, taken from his grandfather's ranch during your coordinated attack. That operation, it wasn't under my command. Ortiz responds carefully. Los cazadores were assigned specifically to your property. Secondary targets were handled by regular enforcement teams. Marcus notes the distinction, a professional distancing himself from what he considers less disciplined operations. Where would they take him? What location in the region serves as your primary detention facility? Ortiz considers his options, understanding the dangerous territory this conversation enters. Providing information to enemies is a capital offense in cartel hierarchy. I'm already dead, Ortiz states matter-of-factly. The moment capture was reported, Sanchez would have issued the order. My family will be relocated, my name erased. Unless Sanchez himself falls, Marcus suggests. Power shifts happen quickly in cartel structures when leadership fails. A flicker of calculation crosses Ortiz's face. The old mining operation serves as the primary forward base. Underground level, western section. That's where high-value leverages are processed. Marcus absorbs this confirmation of his suspicions. Security protocols? 20 personnel minimum, rotating shifts, former military comprising about half the force, standard cartel thugs for the remainder. Ortiz leans forward slightly. Vega oversees the facility personally when high-value operations are active. They'll expect me to come alone, Marcus notes. Standard exchange protocol. They have no intention of exchanging the boy, Ortiz confirms. The order is to eliminate both of you once you're secured. Sanchez wants to make an example, show what happens when someone organizes resistance. Marcus nods, having anticipated this reality. One more question. Who specifically ordered targeting a child, Sanchez or Vega? Vega wouldn't make that decision independently. The authorization would come from Sanchez directly. This final piece of information completes Marcus's assessment. The operation has Sanchez's personal attention and authorization, which means the cartel's regional commander will be monitoring developments closely. Outside the interrogation room, Marcus finds Elena in heated discussion with Sheriff Dawson. I should be part of this, Elena insists. I have trauma medical training, field experience in crisis response. This isn't a hospital situation, Dawson counters. This is a paramilitary operation against armed cartel members. Marcus interrupts. She's right, Elena. This goes beyond conventional medical response. Elena turns to her father, frustration evident. Dad, they have a 13-year-old boy. When you get him out, he'll need immediate medical assessment. Trauma care isn't just physical. The psychological impact of abduction requires specialized response protocols. Marcus recognizes the professional assessment underlying her emotional appeal. As a trauma nurse, Elena has handled crisis situations that most civilians, even most law enforcement, never encounter. There's a difference between crisis response and tactical operations, he begins. I grew up with a Force Recon Marine for a father, Elena reminds him. I've been around these dogs since they were puppies. I know how to move with them, how to follow operational protocols. Before Marcus can formulate a response that balances tactical concerns with paternal protection, Jackson arrives, followed by two men Marcus immediately recognizes, former Marines, Mike Ramirez and David Chen, specialists in tactical operations and communications respectively. Called in some favors, Jackson explains. Unofficially, of course. The arrival of experienced operators shifts the operational calculus. With proper tactical support, the medical expertise Elena offers becomes a more balanced consideration rather than an unacceptable risk. Perimeter position only, Marcus finally concedes. You follow orders exactly. Stay with the backup team and evacuate immediately if the situation degrades. Elena nods. Understanding this represents significant compromise from her father. Agreed. The planning session that follows transforms the sheriff's conference room into an impromptu tactical operations center. Satellite imagery, facility schematics, and intelligence reports cover every surface as Marcus outlines the rescue operation. The mining complex has 3 access points, he explains, marking locations on the map. Main entrance is heavily guarded. Service tunnel here, likely watched but less secured. Ventilation shaft on the eastern slope. Smallest footprint, designed for maintenance access only. Too small for personnel entry, Chen observes. For human personnel, yes. Marcus pulls up detailed specifications of the ventilation system. But perfect for K9 insertion. Timber can navigate this configuration, access the detention area, and provide real-time intelligence on the boys' condition and security arrangements. The others exchange glances, grasping the specialized nature of what Marcus is proposing. Using a dog as the initial infiltration element represents a tactical approach few would consider, requiring training and handler K9 communication far beyond conventional operations. These aren't just protection dogs, Ramirez realizes. They're forward reconnaissance assets, among other specializations. Timber has the strongest tracking and infiltration capabilities, Marcus confirms. Granite excels at diversion and distraction protocols. Avalanche specializes in perimeter security and defensive positions. What's the extraction plan once we have confirmation of the target's location? Chen asks. Professional terminology, replacing emotional language as the team focuses on operational parameters. 2-phase approach, Marcus outlines. Phase 1, Luis Garza appears at the main entrance, creating the impression of a desperate grandfather attempting negotiation. Draws attention and resources forward. Phase 2, primary entry team accesses the service tunnel during the distraction, moves to the detention area, guided by Timber's intelligence. Sheriff Dawson, listening silently until now, raises a critical concern. You're talking about a cross-border paramilitary operation against a cartel stronghold. I can't officially sanction this. Understood, Marcus acknowledges. Your official position is that you're investigating a missing persons case through appropriate channels. What private citizens do independently is beyond your control or knowledge. Dawson's expression indicates she recognizes the thin legal fiction being established. Plausible deniability that might not withstand serious scrutiny, but provides the minimum cover necessary for her position. The boy's safety is the priority, she concedes. Just try to keep collateral damage to a minimum. These jurisdictional nightmares take years to resolve. As darkness falls, the operation moves to the staging area, an abandoned ranger station 3 miles from the mining complex. Marcus conducts final equipment checks while the dogs undergo specialized preparation. Timber receives particular attention. Miniaturized camera equipment secured to his tactical harness, temperature masking material to defeat infrared detection, specialized transmitter that will relay real-time video and audio once he infiltrates the facility. This isn't his first infiltration operation, Marcus explains to Elena, who watches the preparation with growing appreciation of the dog's specialized capabilities. Timber served 2 tours in Afghanistan before transferring to Force Recon. He's accessed structures more heavily defended than this mining complex. The dog's demeanor transforms during preparation, the casual companionship of ranch life replaced by focused operational discipline. His attention remains fixed on Marcus, reading micro-expressions and subtle commands that speak to years of working together in high-stress environments. "I never really understood before," Eleanor admits, observing the transformation. At the ranch, they seemed like unusually well-trained protection dogs. "This is different. This is what they were bred and trained for," Marcus confirms, completing Timber's preparation. "Specialized tactical operations in environments too dangerous for conventional approaches." Luis Garza arrives, his face haggard from sleepless worry. "Any word?" "We have confirmation he's being held at the mining complex," Marcus informs him. "Are you clear on your role?" Luis nods grimly. "Create a distraction at the main entrance. Make them think I'm trying to negotiate directly, independent of law enforcement. The goal isn't to gain entry," Marcus emphasizes. "Just hold their attention at the front while we access the service tunnel. If the situation turns dangerous, you withdraw immediately." "Understood. My grandson's life depends on this," Luis responds. "I won't take unnecessary risks." The final briefing brings all elements together. Marcus and Ramirez will form the primary entry team with Timber as their advance infiltration asset. Chen will maintain communications and coordinate with Jackson, who will manage the outer perimeter with Avalanche. Granite remains with Elena and the medical response team, providing protection while they maintain extraction readiness. "One final thing," Marcus addresses the group. "We're operating on minimal intelligence against an entrenched adversary. Flexibility and communication are essential. If the situation changes, we adapt without hesitation." The operation begins precisely at 2 a.m., the low point in human alertness cycles, when guard rotations typically experience maximum fatigue. Luis approaches the main gate of the mining complex, playing the role of desperate grandfather perfectly. His truck stops just within earshot of the guard post, his voice carrying clearly in the night air as he calls for negotiation. The distraction works as intended. Surveillance confirms guard personnel shifting toward the main entrance, communications chatter increasing as they respond to the unexpected development. Marcus and Ramirez approach the service tunnel under Timber's guidance, the dog moving with practiced stealth that belies his size. Years of specialized training have made him virtually invisible in low-light conditions. His natural predatory movements adapted to tactical applications. The service tunnel security proves minimal, a single guard positioned carelessly, attention diverted toward the commotion at the main entrance. Timber neutralizes the threat with silent efficiency, a specialized hold that renders the guard unconscious without noise or permanent injury. "Just like Kandahar," Ramirez whispers, recalling previous operations as they secure the incapacitated. "Guard, inside the complex, Timber transitions to independent infiltration mode, navigating the ventilation system with practiced ease. The miniaturized camera transmits real-time imagery to Marcus's tactical display. Corridors, guard positions, security measures, all catalogued with professional precision. The detention area appears exactly where Ortiz indicated, western section, underground level. 3 guards visible. Through the specialized audio equipment, Marcus hears a child's voice, Tommy speaking with the forced bravado of a frightened teenager trying to appear brave. "Location confirmed," Marcus reports through the secured communication system. 3. In Tango's one primary target, positive ID, extraction planning shifts to active phase, with Timber maintaining surveillance while Marcus and Ramirez advance through the now-mapped facility. Their movement embodies decades of tactical experience, patient, deliberate, prioritizing stealth over speed. The first direct confrontation occurs at the junction between the main corridor and detention area access. Two guards, more alert than others, detect movement despite the team's precautions. The engagement is brief but concerning. These aren't ordinary cartel soldiers, but trained security professionals with tactical response training. Security elements are Tier 1, Ramirez observes after they secure the guards. Vega isn't taking chances. He's expecting us. This assessment proves accurate. As they approach the detention area, through Timber's surveillance feed, they observe new arrivals entering the secure zone, including Alejandro Vega himself, accompanied by his personal security detail. The asset is now high value, Vega instructs the detention guards, unaware his words are being monitored. Sanchez wants confirmation of Cole's approach before proceeding. The tactical situation has evolved beyond the initial parameters. With Vega personally overseeing the detention, standard extraction becomes significantly more complicated. More, concerning his reference to proceeding, suggests an accelerated timeline that may not align with the original 24-hour ultimatum. Marcus adapts immediately, shifting to contingency protocols developed for high-risk extractions. Timber, Distraction Protocol 3, he commands through the specialized communication system. The dog responds with remarkable precision, withdrawing from his observation position to a predetermined location within the facility's electrical control room. Following specialized training, Timber triggers the emergency power shutdown, plunging the entire complex into darkness. In the momentary confusion, Marcus and Ramirez execute the modified extraction plan, bypassing standard entry. Points in favor of a more direct approach through the now darkened detention area. Their night vision equipment provides decisive advantage against guards struggling to activate backup systems. Vega, demonstrating the situational awareness that has made him Sanchez's most valued lieutenant, recognizes the tactical shift immediately. "It's Cole," he announces to his security team. "Secure the asset. Prepare for facility breach." The confrontation Marcus has anticipated since the cartel first threatened his livestock is now imminent. What began as territorial intimidation has escalated to a direct engagement between specialized operators. The Marine Corps' legendary Phantom against the cartel's most sophisticated security apparatus. What Vega doesn't realize is that the Phantom never works alone, and his most effective tactical assets aren't the human operators accompanying him, but the specialized K-9 partner who has already infiltrated the heart of their security operation. Timber moves through darkness with the natural advantage of his species, navigating by scent and sound, where human operators require technological assistance. His target acquisition is flawless, locating Tommy in the confusion, establishing protective position, waiting for the precisely timed extraction that years of operational experience have perfected. The most dangerous phase of the operation has begun, with Marcus's team now committed to direct engagement against Vega's security forces. The cartel's decision to target an innocent child has transformed what began as defense of property into something far more consequential, a direct challenge to the cartel's operational capacity in the region. What happens in the next few minutes will determine not just Tommy's fate, but the future security of the entire Terrell County. Darkness envelops the mining complex as backup generators struggle to compensate for Timber's sabotage of the main electrical system. Emergency lighting casts eerie red glows through corridors, creating disorienting patterns of light and shadow that Marcus's team exploits with practiced efficiency. Inside the detention area, Vega barks orders to his security detail. Move the boy to secondary location, secure all access points, find the source of the power disruption. Tommy Garza sits, handcuffed to a metal chair, his 13-year-old frame appearing smaller against the harsh industrial backdrop. Despite obvious fear, his expression remains defiant, a child attempting to project courage in a situation beyond his comprehension. "They're coming for me," Tommy states with forced confidence. "My grandfather knows people." Vega ignores the boy's bravado, focusing on security deployment. His radio crackles with fragmented reports, communications compromised by interference that isn't accidental. Someone with specialized equipment is actively disrupting their coordination. "Sir, we've lost contact with perimeter teams 3 and 4, a security officer reports. "Establish visual confirmation of all positions," Vega orders. "This isn't random, it's a coordinated breach." As 2 guards move to transfer Tommy, a low growl emanates from the ventilation duct above, barely audible but unmistakably threatening. Before they can identify the source, Timber launches from the darkness with silent precision, targeting the guard reaching for Tommy's restraints. The attack embodies specialized training beyond conventional K9 approaches, not random aggression, but surgical interdiction. Timber disables the first guard with a precision bite to the weapon arm, immediately transitioning to the second guard before he can draw his sidearm. Tommy stares in shock as the massive Ovcharka establishes defensive position beside him, body language communicating clear protective intent while remaining alert to additional threats. What the? Vega reaches for his weapon, but finds himself facing more immediate concerns as the detention area door breaches. Marcus and Ramirez enter, with synchronized efficiency, exploiting the confusion created by Timber's diversionary attack. Their approach demonstrates the tactical coordination of operators with extensive shared experience, minimum verbal communication, maximized positional awareness. "Timber, secure," Marcus commands quietly. The dog responds instantly, positioning himself against Tommy's chair, using his body as a shield while maintaining situational awareness. This isn't random protective behavior, but specialized training for high-risk extractions involving vulnerable subjects. Vega, demonstrating the best situational awareness that has made him valuable to the cartel, recognizes the tactical disadvantage immediately. His security detail has been neutralized with alarming efficiency, leaving him isolated against multiple operators. "El Fantasma," he acknowledges, weapon still raised but not firing. "Impressive response time." "Release the boy," Marcus responds, his tone carrying the calm authority of someone accustomed to high-stress negotiations. Vega calculates options, eyes measuring distances and angles. "This facility contains 27 cartel soldiers. You're significantly outnumbered." 19 active, Marcus corrects him. 4 are unconscious, 2 are zip-tied in the North Corridor, 2 abandoned their posts when the power failed. The precision of this assessment visibly unsettles Vega, revealing how thoroughly his security has been compromised. Even if you secure the boy, you'll never exit the complex. Vega counters. Sanchez has authorized maximum response. Reinforcements are already en route. Marcus advances methodically. The boy, now! Ramirez moves to Tommy, cutting the restraints with practiced efficiency while Timber maintains protective position. The dog's behavior demonstrates remarkable discipline, maintaining guard protocols despite the chaotic environment and potential threats. Vega makes his decision, lowering his weapon fractionally. Take him. This changes nothing. Sanchez will still eliminate every ranch in the county, starting with yours. That assumes Sanchez remains in position to give orders, Marcus replies. The implication is clear. This operation represents more than a simple extraction. It's a direct challenge to cartel authority in the region. Tommy, now free from restraints, remains frozen in place, overwhelmed by the situation. Timber nudges him gently, a behavior specifically trained for guiding traumatized subjects during extractions. It's okay, Marcus tells the boy calmly. This is Timber. He's going to help you get out. Follow his lead exactly. Tommy looks between the dog and Marcus. Recognition dawning. You're Mr. Cole, the dog trainer from Broken Spoke. No time for introductions, Ramirez interjects, securing the detention area. We need to move before response teams regroup. Vega watches the extraction with cold calculation. Sanchez will take this personally, Cole. Not just business anymore. It became personal when you targeted a child, Marcus responds. Timber, extraction pattern Delta. The dog responds immediately, moving to point position for the withdrawal, body language communicating clear guidance to Tommy while maintaining tactical awareness of potential threats. The boy follows instinctively, understanding the dog's protective intent. As they prepare to exit, facility alarms finally activate, delayed response indicating how thoroughly Marcus's team has compromised security systems. Radio chatter increases as cartel forces attempt to coordinate response to an extraction already in progress. Primary exit compromised, Chen reports through their communication system. Security forces converging on the service tunnel. Marcus processes this information instantly, adapting to changed conditions, initiating contingency routing. Granite, diversionary protocol at primary junction, he commands. Outside the facility, Granite receives the command through Marcus's specialized communication equipment. The second Ovcharka moves with purpose toward the designated position, carrying a specialized diversionary package designed to create maximum confusion with minimal risk. Inside, Marcus leads the extraction team through emergency maintenance passages, identified during planning, secondary routes unlikely to be covered by standard security protocols. Tommy keeps pace, his initial shock replaced by focused compliance, staying close to Timber as instructed. Your grandfather? Marcus asks Ramirez as they navigate a narrow utility corridor. Clear. Jackson extracted him when the operation initiated. He's with the medical team at the rally point. The first direct resistance comes at the junction between maintenance areas and external access. 3 cartel soldiers establishing hasty blocking position. Their tactical positioning indicates professional training, but their execution reveals the confusion affecting the entire security response. Timber signals the threat before visual confirmation, demonstrating the sensory advantages that make canine assets invaluable in tactical operations. Marcus responds with hand signals, specialized commands that deploy both human and canine elements in coordinated response. The engagement is brief but revealing. These aren't elite cazadores, but standard security personnel, dangerous but predictable. In their responses, Marcus's team neutralizes the threat with practiced efficiency, maintaining their extraction timeline without unnecessary engagement. 5 minutes to external access point, Marcus updates through the communication system. Prepare medical assessment protocols at the designated rally point. Elena establishes emergency medical triage, preparing for potential scenarios ranging from minor trauma to serious injury. Her professional training transcends ordinary civilian medical response. Specialized trauma protocols adapted from her emergency room experience. Incoming extraction team, 1 juvenile subject, unknown condition. Chen relays to the medical station. No reported physical trauma, but potential psychological distress. Elena focuses on preparation rather than worry, setting aside the personal connection to the operation. Prepare pediatric assessment kit and shock protocols. She instructs the support personnel, volunteers from local ranches with basic medical training. The extraction team reaches the final security perimeter, a chain-link fence separating the facility's maintenance area from surrounding desert terrain. Sensor equipment identifies standard security measures, motion detection, infrared surveillance, patrol pattern. Granite, execute. Marcus commands through the communication system. The diversionary protocol activates. Carefully placed charges, creating controlled disruption at multiple points around the facility. Not destructive, but strategically disorienting, drawing security response away from the actual extraction route. Under this distraction, the team breaches the perimeter, Timber maintaining protective position around Tommy as they move toward extraction vehicles positioned in concealed locations beyond the facility's surveillance range. Target secured, proceeding to medical assessment, Marcus reports as they reach the designated rally point. Luis rushes forward as they arrive, emotion overwhelming caution. Tommy! The reunion bridges the operational focus with human relief, grandfather and grandson embracing, while Elena conducts preliminary medical assessment, checking for signs of trauma or injury. He's dehydrated but otherwise physically stable, she reports professionally. No obvious injuries beyond minor abrasions from restraints. Tommy maintains a composed facade that barely conceals emotional trauma, a child forced to process experiences no 13-year-old should endure. Timber remains beside him, the dog's presence providing tangible security that helps stabilize his psychological state. They asked a lot of questions about the ranch, Tommy tells Marcus, demonstrating remarkable awareness despite his ordeal. About the dogs especially. The main guy, Vega, kept talking about making examples. Marcus processes this intelligence while monitoring withdrawal of all operational elements. Did you hear any specific plans, timelines, names of other targets? Tommy nods, his recall impressive under the circumstances. They're bringing in more people tomorrow. Something about a final sweep of the county. Sanchez is coming personally to oversee it. This information transforms the operational calculus. Sanchez's direct involvement indicates escalation beyond regional enforcement to something the cartel considers strategically significant. Sheriff Dawson arrives as they prepare to depart, her expression revealing conflict between professional responsibility and personal relief. Tommy's mother is waiting at the station, medical team standing by. She pulls Marcus aside. We have a situation developing. Federal response is mobilizing, but bureaucracy is slowing deployment. 12 hours minimum before official support. Arrives. The cartel won't wait 12 hours, Marcus assesses, based on intelligence from the facility. Sanchez is implementing immediate response. Dawson nods grimly. My sources confirm major movement across the border. They're mobilizing everything available. At least 40 operators plus support elements. Professional assessment suggests they'll hit the county at dawn. Simultaneous strikes against all properties that have shown resistance. The tactical implications are clear. Isolated defensive positions will be overwhelmed by superior numbers and firepower. The Community Defense Network, effective against limited incursions, cannot withstand coordinated assault by cartel forces at this scale. Evacuate the county, Marcus decides. Get everyone to safety before dawn. Most are already moving, Dawson confirms. After Tommy's abduction, the ranchers understood the escalation. They're relocating families to secure locations. She hesitates before adding, they're expecting you to have a plan, Marcus. These people trust you. The responsibility settles on Marcus's shoulders, not just for his property, but for an entire community that has rallied around his resistance. The tactical situation has transformed from defensive protection to something requiring more decisive resolution. Back at Broken Spoke Ranch, Marcus gathers his core team for critical assessment. The successful extraction has altered the strategic landscape, demonstrating cartel vulnerability while simultaneously triggering maximum response. Sanchez is coming personally, Marcus informs them, relaying Tommy's intelligence. Dawn assault, multiple teams targeting all county properties that have shown resistance, scorched earth response. Standard cartel protocol when authority is challenged, Jackson analyzes. They can't allow successful resistance without losing credibility throughout their territory. Elena, having completed Tommy's medical assessment, joins the briefing. The county is clearing out. Most families are already gone. Luis is taking Tommy to relatives in Austin. What about you? Marcus asks, parental concern momentarily overriding tactical focus. You should go with them. Get clear before this escalates further. Elena's expression hardens with familiar determination. I'm staying. These people need medical support, and you need every trained person available. Before Marcus can argue, Sheriff Dawson's vehicle approaches at high speed. Her expression as she exits confirms the situation's urgency. Just intercepted communication from federal monitoring, she reports without preamble. Sanchez's force crossed the border 20 minutes ago. They're moving faster than expected. Advanced elements already setting up staging areas south of the county. Timeline? Marcus asks. 3 hours, maybe 4, before their operational dawn attack. Marcus processes this information with the methodical assessment that defined his military career. Standard tactical doctrine would suggest immediate withdrawal. The approaching force significantly outmatches available defensive resources. But withdrawal means abandoning the county to cartel control, surrendering everything the community has fought to protect. More importantly, it would establish precedent, demonstrating that sufficient force can overcome any resistance. We don't retreat, Marcus decides. We advance. The team exchanges glances, recognizing the strategic shift from defensive operations to something more proactive. Sanchez is expecting us to fortify positions, create defensive perimeters, Marcus explains. Standard response to threatened. Assault. Instead, we engage before they're fully deployed. That's extraordinarily high risk, Ramirez observes. Their numbers are their weakness during deployment phase, Marcus completes the thought. Staging areas mean concentrated targets rather than distributed threats. We don't have the resources for extended defensive operations, but we have specialized assets they don't anticipate. The specialized assets in question, Timber, Granite, and Avalanche, observe the briefing with focused attention, responding to subtle cues in Marcus's posture and voice. These aren't conventional military or law enforcement K9s. They're tactical, partners with capabilities specifically developed for asymmetric operations against superior forces. What exactly are you proposing? Dawson asks carefully, awareness of her official position evident in her phrasing. Precision interdiction of command elements during pre-deployment, Marcus outlines. Targeted disruption of communication infrastructure. Specialized detection of weapons caches and staging areas using the dogs, not as defensive elements, Jackson realizes, but as offensive tactical assets. Marcus nods. Exactly what they were trained for. Timber's infiltration capabilities, Granite's diversionary specialization, Avalanche's perimeter control, deployed proactively rather than reactively. The plan takes shape. Not conventional defense, but specialized disruption targeting Sanchez's command structure before it can organize effective assault. High risk, but potentially decisive, leveraging the unique capabilities of Marcus's K9 partners against conventional cartel operations. This goes way beyond ranch defense, Dawson notes, concern evident. You're talking about direct engagement with a major cartel command element. They crossed that line when they took Tommy, Marcus responds. This isn't about my property anymore. It's about whether this county belongs to the community or the cartel. The sun begins its descent toward the western mountains, casting long shadows across Broken Spoke Ranch. In less than 12 hours, Sanchez's forces will be fully deployed for their final sweep of Terrell County, a coordinated assault designed to eliminate all resistance and establish permanent cartel control of the region. Instead of waiting behind defensive positions, Marcus's team prepares for something the cartel cannot anticipate. Proactive engagement led by specialized tactical assets that have spent years perfecting operations against superior forces. What began as defense of livestock against cartel, intimidation has evolved into something much more significant, a direct challenge to cartel expansion that will determine the future of an entire community. As darkness falls, Marcus completes final preparations with Timber, Granite, and Avalanche. Their specialized equipment designed for their unique capabilities, communication systems that extend their operational effectiveness, tactical positioning that maximizes their natural advantages. Just like old times, he tells them quietly, the midnight operation unfolds with precision that leaves Sanchez's forces in disarray. Using the dog's specialized infiltration capabilities, Marcus's team systematically disrupts the cartel's command structure, neutralizes communications, and creates the opening for federal forces to move in without resistance. By dawn, Sanchez himself is in custody, his operation in ruins. The cartel's attempt to seize Terrell County has failed spectacularly against a force they never truly understood, a veteran and his extraordinarily trained dogs. 2 weeks later, Marcus stands on his porch watching his bulls graze peacefully. Elena beside him, having decided to stay closer to home. The ranch bears few physical scars from the conflict, but the county has been transformed. A community once vulnerable now stands united, protected by both increased federal presence and their own newfound resilience. Timber, Granite, and Avalanche patrol the perimeter. To casual observers, nothing more than well-trained farm dogs. Only those who witness their true capabilities understand the lethal precision concealed beneath their watchful vigilance. "You think they'll come back?" Elena asks. Marcus scratches Timber's ears. "Not to this county. Word travels fast in their world." The story of how 3 dogs and their handler defeated a cartel army will keep them away for generations. What began as a simple threat to a rancher's livestock ended with the dismantling of a criminal empire, all because they underestimated a man and his loyal dogs. If you've enjoyed this incredible true story of courage and loyalty, make sure to hit subscribe. We bring you the most amazing real-life tales every week, and our next episode about a former Navy SEALs confrontation with Somali pirates will leave you breathless. Subscribe now so you don't miss it.